Hello, hello. Happy, what is it, Tuesday already this week. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Hope you are staying safe. Hope you're staying healthy. Are off to a good week. Quick intro because I want to dive into stuff right away. I'm Adam Ruf. I'm AngelList, and I also started this thing called UX Design Contest, aimed at helping designers exercise their skills, practice new techniques, new tools, new ways of thinking or problem solving, and building out their portfolios, and of course winning some money for charity, because it's always good to have a positive impact with the work we do. So picking up from last time, all right, let's see people in chat already. The Ami, welcome. Got Ralph, Melanie. Y'all are doing fantastic this week. Great to see you again. So picking this up, just a quick intro again. Design Contest 14 is the current contest running through the end of the month. It's all about giving the San Francisco SF Zoo website a visual design refresh. Last week, we took a look at the website. We talked a little bit about how good design starts with crap, contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity, among other things. And we started setting the stage for the work we're going to do tonight, which is starting to put together a visual language. And folks, what the San Francisco, oh, that's interesting, San Francisco Zoo.businesscatalyst.com. Huh. Like a different website. I thought it was. I'm really confused now. sfzoo.org. The website changed. Look at that. I got some interesting URL things and it threw me totally off track. Anyways, you can see kind of what they're rocking out with their current visual language. And tonight, I'm going to be on the ball with switching between tools. A little bit different setup, so I have to a little bit more conscientious. There we go. So here's the tools. So today it's all going to be about this visual design language, creating a quick style guide. Try to do this in less than 60 minutes while still thinking aloud and covering some issues like accessibility, affordances, and aesthetics. Now I'll pan out a little bit, or zoom out rather. Can't pan out. I'll zoom out to show you kind of what I've got set up. Admittedly, I did a little bit of work. I knew looking for typography could be a huge time sink and a big rabbit hole. So I set a time box for myself, which is again a practice I wanted to introduce last time as a way to remain productive. I set a small time box to quickly find some fonts that I'm going to use. So I already found those. And then I basically just set up my design file with some things that I'll cover that I think will go a long way towards fleshing out this visual language to apply to refreshing the SF Zoo page. I've got typography, I've got something for starting for colors, I've got a section for buttons, banners. I kind of looked through and tried to do a quick audit of the type of elements I'm seeing on this page. So I see a banner here, we've got another banner here, I see these cards here, I see some other maybe types of cards. Got this big hero image. There are buttons, different types of buttons. What else do I have? Cards, navigation, images, and link. So it's not the most comprehensive design system, but it is the good starting of a style guide that we can apply. All right, if you have questions about accessibility, affordances, aesthetics, this is a great chance to ask those questions as well. And if you have suggestions for me as I'm working, please let me know in chat. I'm going to do my best to keep my eyes open for new chats and be responsive as I can. And with that said, let me take a quick drink to hydrate. And let's dive in. Okay. So let's just start with typography since I've already got some things going here. I'll talk a little bit about what I've done so far. I've picked my 2 fonts that I want to pair. I have Montserrat and this font I discovered on Google. I should com for fonts. Let me get the contest here as well. Forgot to do my usual link plugs in chat. Now I've got them. What's this one called again? By Jam Jury? By Jam Jury? I don't know. It's got a really fun name. What did I like about it? Why did I pick it? It's got some rounded, some interesting shapes. It's got like these not completely, circular rounded shapes that have a little bit more of an organic feel. They're not squares, they're not circles, they're kind of squircly shapes. And I thought that lent itself fairly nicely. I also thought the letter forms are pretty clean, easy to distinguish, nothing crazy. Like, I think someone brought up, I forget who it was, mentioned the Z or the G on the zoo website, right? This like funky G. It's like it's almost there, but it just stopped a little bit. Catch again. So this one has a real strong. And then I went through and just put some sizes. I'm starting to work with like an 8-point grid, 8-pixel grid is what I'm thinking about. So I'm gonna come in and just start naming these things so I can. I'd like my default to be. I'm gonna try doing a default that's 16. So let's see. How do I? If I zoom out, how do I show it? It's not that large, but it's a little bigger than what they're using right now. Quite a bit bigger, so it should be more comfortable. I'm gonna make this my medium. Text medium, and this is actually, why don't I leverage and then I'm just gonna size them small, extra small, large, rather than do XXL, XXXL, XXXL, I like to use numbers. It's a little bit easier. Not only is it shorter, but it's easier to differentiate. Last one. Okay, and then I also have this heading. I think I'm going to use it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to use it. So this is kind of a placeholder. I'm not going to do anything other than say this is this kind of all caps heading. Ralph asks, is using 8 created 8-pixel grid for font subjective. I always thought it was mainly talking about spacing. Yeah, I'm not necessarily using a grid for the fonts, but if you look at my numbers, 12, 14 is not by 8 cleanly. 12, 16, 20, 24, 20 is not, 24 is. It's a little loosey-goosey. There are a lot of different strategies and tactics that you can learn for different types of text scales. Because what I'm doing is fairly simple and lightweight, I'm not going to apply something, just across the board. I'm just kind of going with some things that have been working for me doing UI and product design work. So I'm expecting these will work well, but can always tweak things. And yeah, even for the spacing, like Ralph's pointed out, like sometimes there's a need to do things in between, like a 4-pixel spacer, 12 pixel spacer, that kind of stuff. Anyways, just having 8 in my mind is helpful as an anchor to help me move quickly. There's not that much difference. If I were to tweak these up or down 1, I don't think it would break everything. All right, and then what I want to do is I want to create a text style, and because I use these names, I'm going to go ahead and create text styles for all of these. The tool that I'm using is Sketch, and I can simply style and go through. Well, this also assumes that I've also set my color for the text. Dark gray, black, loosely. Hey Rajan, welcome. Doing well. I don't know why it insists on adding style to the end of the name. All right, cool. So we've got a little typography scale. We'll start seeing how that works when it applies. Let me just see what color I've got going on here. I have this color, which is a very dark, cool gray. See, it's in a purpley space. As far as contrast goes, this is a great opportunity to bring up aesthetics as we move into colors. Thinking about contrast. Where's my favorite site? Here we go. I'm going to switch over temporarily to Chrome and talk about contrast ratio.com, which I think is a really fun tool. You can support opacity and things, and it'll tell you whether or not you are passing the required contrast ratio for different accessibility guideline levels. And so I'm going to put in FFF. That's just white. I suppose I could have just kept it white. I'm also going to plug in, not the link, that's not as helpful. Let me grab that color value again. Add for that really dark gray. There we go. 13. Excellent. So this is sufficiently high contrast. Even people with low vision should be able to see the contrast between this color and the white background. It's fantastic. Let's go over and start adding that in. Got that value here. Here, and I've got my 13.18. Maybe I'll just give it a simple score. It's even easier. Cool, so now I've got the contrast and I've got my little swatches. Well, I've got one swatch. What I want to do as quickly as possible is create a bunch of other swatches, so let me go ahead and duplicate a bunch. How many swatches? Let's see. Let me see how many colors. I'm gonna have a green, a red, an orange, a blue. I'm probably gonna go for like a light rainbow and then some grayscale. So let's do grayscale. Let's go for 5. We may only get 4 for grayscale. Space in between them. Great, so here's where I can do my colors. I think maybe what I'll do is I'll just play with some highly saturated. Maybe I'll keep something kind of similar. I don't know, these, I think the problem with these kind of colors with these backgrounds, they look a little bit muddy and worn. I think I'm gonna go for something that's brighter. Let's increase the brightness and saturation, and we'll call that one of the colors. Just gonna start capturing some of these info. I probably won't fill it all out, right? These are just trying to give examples of what's going on while I'm doing it. It's not critical that I have all of these little documentation details done. Back to, oh, I forgot to switch. Remember to switch. Okay, I'm back at contrast ratio, which is a site I was talking about. Maybe you didn't see before. So that's interesting. So this one is it's passing for large text. So it might be acceptable if we have some large text or using it for a button, but it could be better. 3 is fairly low. So actually I want to try for something higher than that. What I'll do is I'll go back in here, drop the brightness a little bit. Sketch, I just went over and dropped the brightness and got a new hex code, and I'm getting closer. Going back and forth. That's even worse. Try that. Alright, let's sketch back up. I don't know if that necessarily looks that much better. We'll see. We'll see how these things look. More firmly planted in the red zone. Oh, nice. That's actually 5.17. I just checked it on that contrast ratio checker. Alright. Now, using these. I want to lose the color. Okay, and now I'm just going to be playing with the hue slider here. I like having a green look too elementary. Why is it saying this is the Huh. What? Oh, there we go. Accidentally applied a tint to the group. Green is getting yellowed. That Mac thing called the night shift? My colors are getting distorted from that night shift. Night shift Mac. Built-in Retina display. Okay. Ooh, there we go. For your eyes. All right, now we've got the colors without the night shift applied. All right, let's rock and roll with these. I'm just gonna check the contrast on these real quick. Like I'm mostly working with things. Probably not going to be wanting to use these as text colors. Oh. But. Yes. I'm gonna undo that. Might use this other color for links. Oh man, time flies. I gotta pick up. For this, let's do is I'll drop this down. Just suss out what is the lowest. Still have good contrast. 5. All I'm doing is popping over contrast ratio and I'm just plugging things in. Great, that's above 3, 3.42. Back over here. Cool. So there's not a lot of, actually these. So close. These. Normally I'd be much more thorough and go through and like have kind of maximize my steps between the grayscales so that I can have really what I'm shooting for at the lightest gray is a contrast of 3.0, or is it 3.0 or 3.1? I'll do 3.1 just to be safe. That's would be my goal. I'm over that with the 3.42. And then I want to create some steps. So I have some opportunities to create contrast within the text colors. All right, let's move on. Let's go to buttons. So one of the things we can talk about is affordances, and I'm actually going to pull over this heading off. Start laying these things out. So we have default. Give an example of that. Kevin's asking, should all colors in a site's palette have a good contrast against white? I think that's a great question. I think it depends on what you're planning to do with the background. So they're using white for their kind of primary page background, so that works well. It's an easy place to start. So if you're in doubt, a great place to start. Many sites now are doing like light mode, dark mode kind of things. So you may also have a slightly different palette that you've optimized for the dark. And then Melanie is coming in with the awesome accessibility driven response, which is basically like whatever the background color is, you need to test your text colors to make sure they have sufficient contrast. Okay, so we've got default, we've got hover. I'm going to talk about something maybe, I don't know, have you heard about something called focus visible? Focus visible state versus focus. Talk about that in a little bit. And then active and stable. Okay. Driving anyone nuts? Let's space these out a little bit. All right, got these separated a little bit. Buttons. I didn't see, it seems like their button size is pretty consistent. So let's see how far we get with one button size. The way that I am going to create my button is, let's see, am I going to use the padding? Box. I don't care what size it is right now. For the button text, going to try using this heading font, but I'm going to drop it down. An example of one of their button labels. Tickets and reservations. Great. That's kind of a long one though. Tickets and reservations. Cool. Order. I'm just going to try a fill-based button. Also thinking about optically centering it vertically versus straight up. Bring it vertically, that can often lead to situations where it doesn't feel quite right. And I'm going to round the corner so they don't poke anyone's eyes out. Humans are naturally more attracted to rounded shapes. Rounded shapes are softer. I mentioned they're not going to poke, they're less likely to poke your eye out. Ooh, Melanie's talking about layouts and blur test. That actually reminds me, so I did one piece of homework I did also was I was trying to use an extension I created last time, and I didn't have it set up, but now I do, so I'll just show it. I should show... I should link to it first before I show it in case other people... Go to the Chrome store and search Visual Design Quick Test. Link I will drop in chat, and then I'll just show it off real quick because I 100% agree with what Melanie's saying. There are a few different tests that I like to do for visual design depending on what I'm doing, and the first one I have is just applying this blur. You can also zoom out as well, and you start to see what things are popping out at you when you're using this blurred filter. Get a sense of, are the pieces in the right place? Now I'm not paying attention to the words, my brain's not distracted by the language on the screen. That's one of them. Another one that I was mentioning last time was about grayscale and being able to review your design for contrast, right? Putting everything in grayscale really helps you assess contrast easily. A couple other ones. This one's better for zooming out, but just testing to see the visual balance of your site. If imagine oh shoot, I forgot. I'm gonna get better at this, I swear. All right, so now I'm doing this. I'll go back maybe and do the other one if I have time. Imagine a triangle at the very bottom of your design, and the design is sitting on top of it. Will it be balanced? Will it be tilting left to right? So that's where this flipping horizontal can be helpful. We see this is a fairly strong, right, in terms of horizontal balance. You can also flip it upside down. And then going back to what Melanie was saying, I talked about blur a little bit, how you can use blur. And I'll just show the grayscale. And then the other things I built in here were for color blindness. So I have the most common color blindness first. And this is a really easy way to look through and see how your colors are doing. All right, enough of that. Let's hop back over to Sketch. Let me make sure I transition it this time. Yes, we're good. All right, This looks fine, but ideally, I want to height size that plays really nicely with my 8-pixel grid. Cool. So I've got this together. I'm gonna go ahead and create a symbol, and that's where I'll do my updating. So I'm just gonna call this button. This is gonna be button. Cool. I'll just stick with one size now, and then I can just do color variations. Now I can jump over to my symbol, and this is where I can magic. I have a horizontal layout. I allow overrides, value. Also this style. Let's see. Did I have? I didn't add my colors yet. Ugh. All right. Let's add these things. Oh, I haven't named any of these things. All right. This is gonna be text start A double A play A for accessibility. Granted, these are not any magical definitions. I just need something to differentiate these things. Add. Be fun to call if you're making a style guide for a zoo, like chameleon green, or incorporate animal names into the colors. That could be pretty cool. Peacock blue, all that. I'm just gonna go fast because I have a lot I'm trying to do in a short amount of time. All right, great. Now let's go back to our symbol. Use purple color, and I haven't added white yet, have I? No, so let's do that. Variable name white, create plastic, your button gray, purple. Cool. I do want to go through some of these now that my button's so long though. Let's donate. Now what I can do is I can change the label, and my button's automatically going to resize, which is great. Now I can show off some of these states. Just duplicate this a bunch of times in different states as we talk about affordances, right? What are affordances? Affordances are cues suggesting how something is to be used or what you can do with something. So I have this default button on hover. What I'm going to do is, I guess I'll attach from the symbol. No, but I just want to tweak this color a little bit. I'm going to place it. I'm going to place a version of it nearby so we can kind of look and see. There's some subtle variation. It may not be enough. We'll see. I chose to go darker and increase the contrast. Another way to go would be to go lighter. For focus, let's add And I'm going to use the spread, and I'm going to blur down, and I'm going to zero out the XY coordinates. And oh, I don't have my other blue color, do I? Let's go ahead and use the eyedropper since I haven't set it up. Color variable, blue. So come down here. Focus is going to be, actually, I don't want to do that for this focus. I'll talk about why in just a second. So for this one, I'm actually going to move the shadow, and I'm going to apply it to this focus visible. So the difference between focus and focus visible, for one thing, focus visible is relatively new. I'm gonna go to this website to show you what I'm talking about. Right. So focus visible, you can use it safely if folks are using, your audience is using Chrome. If they're using Firefox, you need to use a slightly different CSS selector or attribute. Edge supports it. Looks like Opera supports it. Android browser, Chrome for Android, Firefox for Android. iOS does not. That's fine. You can create a fallback for those situations. And let me show you, I think actually with my own website, this will kind of put me to the test. Let's see if I have this set up correctly. So let me see, if I click Get Design Help, this is going to launch a modal. And then if I close the modal, now I have the focus. So basically, go in here. You can see in the Dev Tools and Chrome Inspector, there's a focus, and there's also a focus visible. It looks like I've changed things away to just focus on focus, probably because I got tired of waiting for the Chrome version to update to support focus visible. It does now, but basically I want these to work opposite. When I'm done pressing a button, I don't need it to have this special focus, but it is really handy tabbing through to help see where things are. So hopefully that's clear. The TLDR is for focus. I'm going to try to default to the same default state. This is for a click. This is like someone who's clicking or tapping a button. They don't really need to see something that says like I clicked this button when it works and it does something. Whereas the focus visible is largely support for accessibility when folks are using their keyboard and tabbing through, or using a screen reader software to go through. Focus visible could be the state. And let's see, we've got that blue here. Great. I'm gonna drop the transparency down a little bit so it's not quite as saturated. That's gonna be the focus visible. Active, so this is when someone is pressing down. So imagine you're pressing down on a button. Something that I kind of got into recently in terms of styles. Let's see if I did it on my own. No, I just have it moving down. Back to sketch. What? There we go. So I have the focus set up as basically the same as default. I have focus visible with that box shadow without any blur. For active, I'm going to use an inner shadow. Basically going to be reversing what I'm doing for focus visible. I found something like this is kind of nice. It's very even in terms of what color I'm going to use. Let's use the dark color, and then let's reduce the opacity. So we have something that's a little bit more subtle, but will still communicate and feel like something that's pressed. Disabled, I'm just going to see what that looks like. Sure, I reduce the opacity of the entire button by 50%. Cool. Great, we've got something to go on. All right, I gotta hurry up. What's next? Some banners, some cards, or some navigation? Let's look at cards real quick. So back to the zoo website and let me turn off my color blindness simulator. Here are some examples of some small cards. These are some examples of banners. I'm going to copy one over Sketch, and I'm also going to copy the content. So I have these little blocks so I can work with actual content as I'm designing the card. Let this find out more. Cool, and then this image. Great. Okay. Go. All right, so I've got the little pieces I want. I'm going to start by just creating a box. I'm going to set this card background to a gray color. That's just going to help for when I set this card to white, that I'm going to be able to know where the boundaries are. I'm a big fan of shadows, like subtle shadows, mimic real lighting scenarios. Let's add in some shadows here. Stacking shadows is a really easy way to make a shadow softer. Do that here, whoops. Go, so that is a soft shadow for the card. We may play with that later. Let's once again round the corners so we're not poking anyone's eye out. With an example of this card. What size it's going to be. I haven't talked anything about grid and layout yet because I'm just focused on the visuals, so some of the stuff might need to change. I did mention using an 8-pixel grid, so something that I can think about. In terms of cards, shoot, I wish I had my sizes top of mind. Starting to apply some of those text styles that I created earlier. Ooh, one note about, I may need to update the styles. Once you start getting into larger font sizes, one thing that can be really helpful is adding in some space in between characters. And one of the things I usually do is just multiply by 0.1. Whatever the font size is, I just multiply by 0.1 to get a nice amount of space in between the characters. Cool, this is looking good. This one's a link. We haven't talked about links much yet, but maybe we can do that here. Might actually make the whole card clickable. So I don't actually know if we need this. I'll think about it. Alright, I'm going to set up an image here. I'm going to make the rectangle into a mask. Wait, how tall is this? 40. Larger images. Let's try 320. Now with padding a little bit. Great. Okay. Here's our example card that I can use. I can adjust shapes and colors. Maybe use different colors. I don't have that many colors. All right. Small changes, yeah, but rounded borders, modern. I would describe it as modernizing the shadow. Two different patterns, having the additional consistency between the heading and the call to action or the link there. Great. Okay. Banners. All right, let's take a look at some of these banners that we have going on. So basically just strips. Right, we've got like, you can call this yellow background kind of a banner. We've got these really thin sections. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about banners. So I'm interested in creating just a pattern or example for some different types of these banners. I'm just going to start. I'm going to start by capturing screenshots of them. Over. Talk a little bit about how we might modernize these things. Bring just two over to start with. Okay, let's. go, magic. For these banners, I actually want a penguin and this bird because I want to do something different, something we talked about last week to create visual interest and enhance the aesthetics. Okay, but I'm going to do that. Getting these images. Grab the penguins next. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click on this, and in Sketch I'm going to move white from it. Cool, so now I should be able to place those. You should be able to see I can place those. And it's not perfect. I'm not using Photoshop here, but it's good enough to give you the idea, the concept, right? So now I can place them on a colored background. They don't have to be sitting in the middle of white. They can be peeking up overhead. And that's kind of exactly what I want to do with this bird. That wasn't super clean. I think I can. Oops. I lost some of its bill. Bill is orange too. Okay, that looks pretty good. Forgot to invert. One way, maybe I'll go too far and then I'll go back. Invert, crop, boom. There we go. All right, so banners. I've got these colored blocks. Might do something. I kind of want to use a gradient. See how it looks. Let's just get something going. Use a gradient where we are using primary colors, and let's out. Then let's stick the bird on top. Preferences. Playing around with this pattern of this. Animals that kind of jump out. Out of the banner itself. Play around with one other instance of that and see how this, or penguins. Cool colors for the penguins. not super clean, right? Because of my quick kind of hack job of removing the white from around it. But imagine we get some high-res things going there. Then we've got this concept of these more natural-looking banners that use gradients, which are commonly feature, right? So we see a lot of gradients: the sky, the sunset, sunrise. And what about adding content? Like, how do we add content to the banners? Yeah. One way would be to combine a card, right? Do we have a card that goes on here? Up. How we might leverage card pattern. Create some additional contrast. Was there an action? Let me see what that thing. Mission statement. All right. Grab this actual tag. Mission statement. Go to the website real quick. All right, I'm getting a knock on my door. It looks like it's time for dinner. All right, we got a somewhat decent start. Yes? Yes? No? Maybe so? What do you say, chat? Looks like I have a little bit of homework to do. I will look at putting this, maybe getting this out to the cloud and making this accessible. Again, a recap, right? We talked about text sizes and making sure that we're thinking about accessibility and making things easier to read. We talked about color contrast as we're picking out our color palette and thinking about how we're using text against other colors. We talked a little bit about affordances in these different button states and how we get things through these different cues. Got card again with more affordances like the arrow, like if we use some text or a link color that I might make, or we somehow make it clear that this whole card is clickable. I think that's even more interesting, so I think playing with that would be really cool. Didn't get a navigation, didn't get a link or images, so those are things I can fill in afterwards. And then played a little bit around banners, improving the aesthetics around banners, making them more visually interesting, pulling in some gradients, some nature to the zoo site. So I think next I'll be back on Thursday, I think is the current plan. In the meantime, I'll work on fleshing this out a little bit more and sharing it. Until then, you've been awesome. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you're excited to enter this contest. And happy designing. Hope to see you Thursday. Bye, all.